Good morning to you. It is just after 8 o'clock on Sunday, the 26th of September. Now, more on our top story, that 10,000 lorry drivers and poultry workers will be given temporary UK visas in a government U-turn that's designed to stop supply chain disruption ahead of Christmas.
Now, it comes after a shortage of drivers led to fuel delivery problems at petrol stations and empty shelves in supermarkets. The British Chambers of Commerce said the latest announcement was like throwing a thimble of water on a bonfire. Here's our business correspondent, Katie Austin.
The 5,000 visas will be available for people who drive fuel tankers and food lorries from the start of October. They'll last only until Christmas Eve. It's thought the shortfall of HGV drivers in the UK runs into tens of thousands. The problem has been building for years, but has worsened following Brexit and the pandemic. One haulier said today's news was a step in the right direction.
It might well get us over the peak time, although I would like to have seen it 4 months. But, you know, we'll take what we can, but it's not enough and it's too little too late, basically.
The government had resisted calls from retail and freight business groups for a short-term relaxation of immigration rules. Now that's changed. It follows 2 days of issues at petrol stations, which began with a shortage of drivers delivering to some BP garages and became widespread once drivers ignored pleas not to panic buy. The group, which represents European hauliers, isn't sure how many drivers will want to come.
We will need to see once the new provisions will be officially adopted. What I can say is that the shortage of drivers is a long-term problem. It's a long-term issue which requires long-term solutions. And this will also depend upon the type of transportation from the EU to UK.
The trade body representing major UK supermarkets insisted they alone needed at least 15,000 lorry drivers to avoid Christmas disruption. 5,500 chicken and turkey workers will also be eligible for visas. But one business group said these latest measures only helped to a limited extent.
Look, I think it's a really good start, but it's just not going to be enough. We have a critical shortage of really skilled workers, not just these drivers, but also in other sectors too. And we need a proper plan on how we're going to transition from where we are now to what's really coming. This is going to really wreck our economic recovery unless we absolutely sort our supply chain issues out now.
Funding has also been announced to train up 4,000 more UK drivers and use staff from the Ministry of Defence to boost the number of test examiners. The government says visas won't be a long-term solution, insisting it's the responsibility of businesses to invest in the domestic workforce. Katie Austin, BBC News.
Well, our chief political correspondent, Adam Fleming, is in Brighton for Labour's annual conference, and inevitably that's going to dominate as a talking point. But is there a sense that the government has been backed into a corner on this because they didn't want to throw open the doors again, if you like, did they, to workers from outside the UK?
Well, there are definitely some cabinet ministers that didn't think extra visas were the answer to this, but they've obviously been overruled when the government has seen a blockage to a crucial bit of the economy, and they've decided that they had to go ahead with letting more people into the country. But it is for a limited period. These visas will run out on Christmas Eve, and it's for a limited number of people in a limited number of sectors. 5,000 hauliers, 5,500 people working in the poultry sector. And if you had a Brexiteer cabinet minister here, they would say it is consistent with the UK's new post-Brexit immigration policy, which is to have extra visas for jobs where there's a shortage, and it is not a return to the free movement of people that was part of EU membership.
And in terms of the conference itself today, there's the whole question about changes to leadership rules. But what they really want to be talking about is their vision for education in England. So what are they saying?
Yeah, so the big policy today is that Labour would continue with something proposed by Jeremy Corbyn when he was in charge, which is that you take away the charitable status of private schools, which means they'd have to pay more tax. Labour thinks that would raise about £1.6 billion, which you could spend on better careers advice for pupils and also upgrading all those laptops that were handed out during the pandemic. But the conference has started off with a bit of an internal row about the internal party procedures over how you elect future future Labour leaders. It looks like Keir Starmer has got that through a watered-down version of his proposals through the first phase of the machine, but now it will go to party members who will vote on it today. And Keir Starmer's also got this issue about, is he really cutting through and making a name for himself, and is the public really getting to know him? And Lisa Nandy, the Shadow Foreign Secretary, says that this first in-person conference will be an opportunity for him to do that.
One of the problems that we've had over the last 18 months is that we haven't been able to get out and speak to the country. Keir became leader in the most extraordinary circumstances. He hasn't been able to meet with people. He was saying to me the other day that he made his acceptance speech to his armchair in his living room. I mean, he just hasn't had this opportunity. He'll get that opportunity to speak to our members and directly to the country on Wednesday, and he will lay that out.
And there's plenty of other things going on at Labour conference as well. Ed Miliband's going to make a speech about the steel industry and net zero carbon emissions later. Angela Rayner made some quite eye-catching comments about the Tories at a reception last night, which I think some people will be highly critical of. And Rachel Reeves, the Shadow Chancellor, has been talking about some new rules that Labour would have for managing the public finances. But that will be a big story tomorrow when she does her speech.
Thanks very much, Adam.
Millions of voters are going to the polls in Germany this morning in an election to decide who will take over from Angela Merkel as Chancellor. Well, let's speak now to our Berlin correspondent, Jenny Hill, who's with us. She's in Berlin for us. Jenny, good morning to you. This is a hugely significant vote, isn't it?
It is. Germany is standing on the threshold of a new political era, and this morning the country's president urged German citizens to get out and vote in what is arguably the most significant election in a generation. Now, as if that weren't excitement enough, it's also the Berlin Marathon today. You can see the athletes gathering here behind me. It means that reporters like me find ourselves irresistibly drawn to all sorts of competition-style metaphors, and I'm going to start with one. The race for the German chancellery is simply too close to call at this stage. It's between Angela Merkel's Conservatives, led by a man called Armin Laschet, and the Social Democrats. Their candidate is Olaf Scholz. The Social Democrats are the junior partner in Mrs. Merkel's coalition government. And depending on which poll you look at, the parties are separated by somewhere between 1 and 4 percentage points. Now, with a margin of error taken into account, that means it is impossible at this stage to predict the outcome tonight. Incidentally, the Green Party, who had hoped to do a bit better, are polling in third place. Climate change has been a huge issue in this election campaign, but they could still end up in a future government. And that's because whoever comes out on top tonight will have to try to form a coalition government. And while all sorts of combinations are technically possible, many of them are politically very, very tricky indeed to negotiate, which means that it could be weeks, if not months, before Germany gets its new government and Angela Merkel finally stands aside for a new German Chancellor.
Jenny, thanks very much. Jenny Hill there, busy day ahead in Berlin.
At least 3 people have been killed and dozens of others injured after a passenger train derailed in the US state of Montana.
Emergency crews have been working at the scene to help free people from the wreckage after 7 of the 10 train carriages left the track. An investigation into the incident is now underway.
A volcanic eruption continues to cause destruction and disruption on the Spanish island of La Palma.
Yeah, thousands of people have had to leave their homes while ash and smoke has forced the closure of the island's airport. The volcano started erupting this day last week, and now a thick plume of smoke extends nearly 2.5 miles into the air.
And Strictly is back. The ballroom battle for the glitter ball is officially underway. 15 new celebrities. It took forever last night to get through them all. It was highly entertaining, but anyway, they're all on the dance floor, and there's a very familiar face.
Very familiar sofa.
I bet it's not as firm as this one we're sitting on
well,
right
that table's much stronger, I can tell you that.
He's 5th in the leaderboard, 5th out of 15. He's actually really good.
Yeah.
Really good.
I'm really glad he's doing tall people proud.
Yeah. And that was a hard dance to start with a quick step as well. We're going to talk to one of my absolute favourites, former Strictly professional Flavia Cacace Mystery, about his chances and all the other contestants as well. But, you know, the early signs are that this is going to be a very high quality Strictly this year. And AJ Adudu was the sort of standout dance for many reasons. I think she scored the highest number of points, but she just looked like the finished product, even on week 1.
This is week 1.
I know, it's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant.
Feet. I mean, I think, as Dan said himself, as the judges said, they were very surprised by how well other dancers are available. But
Not easy when you're tall.
Go Dan.
Not easy when you're tall, is it? They
No.
liked his long neck,
Yeah.
apparently.
See, tall people can have a bit of grace sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes.
Be a first for me, but yeah. Well done, Dan.
See the headlines as they happen and watch BBC News live in the app and get the full story with bbc.co.uk/news. Follow the story for all the latest with BBC News.